You know, when you think of Nepal, you think of the Himalayas, the roof of the world. And from those mountains flows this incredible natural treasure, water. But this is really a story of a paradox, a nation with just an abundance of water that's still struggling to turn that torrent of promise into a real, tangible flow of progress. So let's get into why that is.
Okay, so to really wrap your head around the scale here, just look at this number. Every single year, about 225 billion cubic meters of water flows out of Nepal's rivers. I mean, this is the country's immense natural wealth, just flowing from glaciers and snowfields right down through the valleys.
And all that water? Well, it means energy potential. We're talking a theoretical capacity for hydropower of over 83,000 megawatts. That is just a staggering amount of clean, renewable energy that's essentially waiting to be harnessed. So when you see numbers like these, it leads to one really crucial question.
Right, with all this potential for irrigation, for clean energy, for just massive economic growth, why has progress been so slow? How can a country that's so rich in water still face so many challenges with its development? This is the central puzzle that we're going to unpack together.
And this brings us right to what we're calling Nepal's water paradox. Those numbers you just saw, they represent a huge opportunity. And yet, actually turning that potential into tangible benefits, things like reliable electricity, year-round irrigation, and real economic growth, that has been a persistent, decades-long challenge.
Here's a great way to think about it. Imagine a bank that's just sitting on a fortune in assets, but the bank's internal systems are totally outdated, its rules are confusing, and it just can't figure out how to invest that money to benefit its shareholders, who, in this case, are the Nepali people. See, the problem isn't the resource, it's the system for managing it. And that brings us to one of the biggest hurdles, a tangled, complicated web of rules and regulations. The very framework that was designed to govern Nepal's water has, believe it or not, become a major part of the problem itself over time. If you look at this timeline, you can see this constant effort to get it right. It starts with the 1992 Act, then a more modern strategy in 2002, a whole new federal constitution in 2015, and an updated policy in 2020. But the key takeaway here isn't just the dates, it's the pattern. With each well-intentioned update, another layer of complexity got added to the system.
Now, what's really interesting here is you don't even have to read every single word on this slide to get the point. Just look at it. This table shows how the 2015 Constitution split up power, and as you can see, there are huge areas of overlap, of concurrent jurisdiction. The result? Total confusion over who's actually responsible for what.
And this confusion, it has very real-world consequences. One report put it pretty bluntly, saying the water sector is so heavily regulated and confusing that it actually scares away the private investment that's needed for these big projects.
So what this all boils down to is a major disconnect. Nepal has developed some really excellent modern water policies. They look great on paper. But there's this huge gap between the policy document sitting on a shelf and the actual tools, the laws, and the clear responsibilities needed to make any of it happen on the ground.
And as if all that internal complexity wasn't enough, there's a massive external threat that's making everything harder: climate change. It's basically acting as a threat multiplier, taking all these existing challenges and just cranking up the volume on them.
And here is where the situation becomes just incredibly unfair. Nepal contributes a minuscule 0.027% to global greenhouse gas emissions, a tiny fraction, and yet it ranks 9th in the entire world for long-term climate risk. It's bearing this hugely disproportionate burden for a problem it really did very little to create.
The impacts are like a cascade effect. Temperatures are rising faster here than the global average, which then leads to more extreme floods and droughts. At the exact same time, the very source of their water, the glaciers, is retreating. This all adds up to a massive economic cost and a direct threat to the nation's water security, and it's going to hit the most vulnerable people the hardest.
You know, for decades, engineering has been a field built on precision, on historical data, using formulas just like this one to manage water and predict risk. But the thing is, climate change is making that historical data less and less reliable. It's throwing this dangerous new variable into the mix: radical uncertainty. It just makes it so much harder to plan for the future.
So, with this tangled system on the inside and the growing threat of climate change on the outside, how does Nepal move forward? Well, the solution seems to lie in bridging a really critical policy gap and creating a framework that's actually fit for this new era.
Okay, so this is the absolute heart of the problem today. Nepal has a modern, forward-thinking water policy from 2020. It embraces great ideas like river basin management and science-based decisions. But, and this is a huge but, the main law that's actually on the books, the one that governs everything, is the Water Resources Act from 1992. And it just doesn't line up with the new federal structure or these modern principles.
So how do you fix this disconnect? Well, based on a comprehensive expert review, there's actually a pretty clear path forward that's been laid out. It's a series of concrete steps to finally start unlocking Nepal's incredible water potential.
And the plan is really comprehensive. First up, clarify governance. You've got to untangle that web of who does what. Second, make decisions based on science by investing in way better data. Third, manage resources holistically, by river basin, not by random political boundaries. Fourth, build sustainable infrastructure that's going to last. Fifth, secure the investment needed to make it all happen. And finally, foster regional cooperation with neighboring countries. It's a real roadmap to resilience.
At the end of the day, Nepal's story is such a powerful case study for a universal question. For any nation that's blessed with immense natural resources, how do you build the systems, the governance, and the resilience to turn that blessing into real, lasting prosperity for everyone? That's the challenge, and for Nepal, that torrent of promise is still waiting to be unleashed.